A few months ago, an Amish woman named Sarah Joy began posting on TikTok, sharing details about her life within the community, her favourite recipes, and her music. Her account quickly gained traction, with many users fascinated by this way of life that most of us have pretty much no idea about. However, on the 26th of March, Sarah uploaded a video that was very different in tone to the rest. Speaking in a shaky and seemingly terrified voice, she announced that she would no longer be posting on TikTok, with no explanation, leaving her followers extremely concerned for her safety. Let's investigate. If you enjoy internet mysteries and generally disturbing content, feel free to subscribe and turn on notifications for more content like this. If you're interested in supporting the channel, you can become a Ko-fi member or a channel member to gain access to uncut videos and other perks, or you can leave me a tip by clicking the thanks under this video. Thanks to anyone who considers this. Sarah Joy is 22 years old and was raised in an Amish community somewhere in the US. The exact state isn't known for sure. She typically refers to herself as a plain person, which can be used to describe a few different Christian groups, including Amish and Mennonites. In a nutshell, these groups are characterized by separation from the rest of the world and by simple living. They live in separate communities and rarely rely on the outside world for anything, with a couple of rare exceptions, such as medical care if a person in the community is unable to be treated in it. This doesn't necessarily mean that the Amish have zero contact with outsiders, who they call English, regardless of their ethnicity, though they try to remain self-sufficient as much as possible. They have their own education system where children are only educated until the age of 14. They don't accept any form of state benefits and only marry within the community. They tend to avoid modern technology such as phones, computers, TVs, cameras, and cars. These communities adopt traditional gender roles where women are responsible for raising children, taking care of the home, cooking, and doing light farm work, and men do jobs such as farming, carpentry, and factory work, as well as taking charge of the spiritual life of the family. They value rural life, manual labour, humility, and submission to God's will. There is no centralised leadership of plain people, so while their basic values and ways of life are pretty consistent, each individual community is different in some ways. For example, some use technology more than others. While some avoid electricity almost entirely, other communities have electricity inside homes and people have washing machines and fridges. Mennonites are known to use technology more than the Amish and are also more likely to use cars and trains, whereas the Amish typically use horses. Amish people don't tend to watch TV or use computers or phones to access the internet to avoid their values becoming polluted by the mass media, but more modern Mennonites can and do watch TV, even though it isn't necessarily encouraged by the church. As an outsider, it's hard to learn the truth about these communities. Because they're so isolated and don't typically allow outsiders to convert and join them, most of the information that can be found online is what these communities have chosen to share. There's a page on the BBC website that details the Amish way of life, values, customs, and beliefs, and honestly, it paints it in a pretty good light. As someone who lives, works, and breathes on the internet, it's not a life I'd want personally. But from this page alone, the religion and culture seems relatively unproblematic. It's different for sure, but I don't really see many things fundamentally wrong with it if people are happy living like that. When it comes to religion in general, I don't really agree with the indoctrination of children. I think children should be exposed to various different beliefs and cultures, then given the freedom to choose their own path. Amish children are brought up in the community with minimal interference from the outside world, but there is a concept known as Rumspringa, where after the age of 16, they can go and experience life outside the community for a few years, after which time they're free to decide if they want to become full baptized members of the community. This sounds a lot better than forcing your children to follow your beliefs without question, then disowning them if they choose a different path as adults. Problem is though, when this strict way of life is all you've ever known, it's incredibly difficult to adapt to anything else. Amish children are only educated until the age of 14, and their teachers don't usually have any specialist training. Education is mostly limited to the 4 R's: reading, writing, arithmetic, and religion, which seriously limits their options for pursuing higher education. Amish children are brought up in a way that prepares them for life within the community, so they're basically a fish out of water in the outside world. The vast majority of children who experience Rumspringa choose to return to the community, but with few skills and little knowledge on how to exist outside of the community, do they really have much choice? Despite the unproblematic picture painted by sources like the BBC page, there are a number of people who have left the Amish community and spoken out about the pretty horrifying reality. Some of this will become clear as the video progresses, as Sarah herself highlighted some of the problems, but one of the most concerning issues is SA, particularly of young girls. These crimes seem rampant within these groups, and the victims are often unable to do anything about it. Because these are isolated communities, there's little opportunity for a victim to contact the police, and SA is apparently quite normalised, so even if a victim did somehow report their abuser, if anything even came of it, they might well be shunned by the rest of the community. These crimes being normalised might mean that a victim wouldn't even think to get help in the first place. They might just think it's a part of life that they have to accept. Anyway, with that context out of the way, let's get on to the Sarah Joy situation. While Sarah usually vaguely describes herself as plain, it seems that she is specifically Amish. Her house does have electricity, a fridge, and an oven, but she doesn't have running water and keeps water in bottles that has been taken from the spring outside. She's also not actually allowed to have a phone or to use social media, and implied that it was difficult to obtain a phone and that there would be consequences if she was found to be using it. Sarah's videos show her cooking, singing, and playing the piano or guitar, and doing chores. She also shows aspects of Amish life, such as her outfits, making clothes, and working in a plane store. Although Sarah hasn't gone into much detail on her past or current life, she has given hints that paint quite a sad and worrying picture. It seems she had a boyfriend at one point, but it didn't work out. She posted a video implying that she feels sad when she attends a wedding, but she doesn't have a husband. She seems to want out of the community. She said she wants a family and kids, but that's not all she wants, in the caption of a video where she expresses that she dreams of being a hairdresser, but her dreams are just dreams, and she'll probably end up living the traditional Amish life. She posted a couple of videos referencing an attempt at taking her own life in 2022. It's not clear if there was a specific event that triggered this, and it does sound like she's doing better now, but clearly she isn't totally happy or satisfied with her life. In another video, Sarah looks really upset, and the text on screen reads, "When you figure out why you have memory gaps," before a photo of presumably her as a child appears. One of the hashtags is SA Awareness, and she liked some of the comments consoling her regarding childhood SA, all but confirming that she was SA'd as a child. One of the more ambiguous videos has led to much speculation. Sarah can be seen holding a phone with text on screen reading, "I would have given anything to hear this." The sound is a voice that says, "Hello, this is your mother. Are you there? Are you coming home?" This seems to imply that Sarah isn't in contact with her mother. It could be because her mother is dead, but judging by the comments she liked, it seems more likely that her mother either abandoned her, or that for whatever reason she wasn't a good mum. Some wondered if Sarah had been adopted or even kidnapped as a child and brought into the Amish community, highlighting the hashtag on the video, Amish Mafia. It's really hard to speculate with how vague all these hints are, but it certainly sounds like Sarah has suffered a lot throughout her life. Among her most recent TikToks are 2 videos mentioning 2 Amish women who were murdered. Quote, "Listening to the men talk about non-resistance as I think about Rebecca, the 23-year-old pregnant Amish woman who was shot in the head and had her throat slashed in front of her small children in her own home. And when I remember Linda, the 18-year-old Amish girl who was abducted 500 feet from her own home. She was strangled, essayed and stabbed. Her remains were found 10 months later." Sarah's earlier videos were relatively light-hearted, but these more concerning uploads have become more frequent recently. Although she likely would have been punished in some way for having a phone and using TikTok anyway, she wasn't necessarily showing the Amish community in a bad light at first. But some of the recent videos absolutely are, and if anyone in her community saw them, it probably wouldn't end well. On the 22nd of March, Sarah posted a video captioned, "The bishop is coming to town next Sunday." The text on screen read, "Me one of these days when I walk into church," and it seems to imply that she'd have a lot of explaining to do. Considering the most recent update, this video was definitely foreshadowing whatever has happened. On the 26th of March, Sarah posted a TikTok that she claimed would be her last. In her other videos, despite the references to awful things that have happened in her life, she generally seemed quite upbeat. She comes across as very sweet, funny, friendly and likeable. Her entire demeanour changed in her last video though. It's like she's speaking from a rehearsed script. She seems terrified and subdued, and it gives the impression that someone is behind the camera, making sure she's saying what she's been told to say.
Hello. This is the last TikTok that I'm going to be making while I'm still in the community.
It's fairly safe to assume that Sarah got caught and has been forced to give up her phone.
It has been very nice to get to know all of you, and I appreciate the opportunity that you have given me to talk about the community. I wish you all well.
I don't know if someone in the community snitched on her or if someone found out at her place of work. She made a video asking people not to talk about TikTok if they see her at work, as apparently a few people already had. A TikToker known as the Misfit Amish, who left the Amish community some time ago and now speaks out against it, claimed a few hours after Sarah's video that someone has made contact with her and she is physically safe. Sarah has apparently asked that people do not try and do a welfare check on her because it would endanger her. While in most situations, the best thing to do is to call the police, this is one of those rare situations where that might actually be counterproductive. If the police show up and no crime has taken place, there's nothing they can do, but the involvement of the police could in turn lead to a crime being committed against Sarah. Many Amish communities do not want anything to do with police, and contacting them is even considered a sin in some. So this is a really worrying situation. We have no idea how Sarah's community punishes those who betray them, and that's exactly what she's done. The story has taken a pretty bizarre turn in the last few hours though, and many are now questioning if everything is as it seems. A TikToker known as Kenzie Ren uploaded a video claiming to know Sarah in real life and exposing her, and she actually brought receipts. She showed photos of herself with Sarah wearing makeup and regular clothes, at family functions and even Krispy Kreme, living a seemingly normal life, definitely not in an Amish community. According to Kenzie, Sarah suffers with unspecified mental illnesses and is a compulsive liar. Apparently she does work in a plain store and often wears plain clothes because she likes that lifestyle, but she's not actually Amish and definitely isn't in any danger. Kenzie believes that Sarah started her TikTok for fun, but kinda got carried away as her account got more popular. With the information available, it certainly seems probable that Sarah has fabricated this lifestyle for attention on TikTok. A couple of people have replied to Kenzie suggesting that Sarah converted and joined an Amish community, and I guess it's not impossible, but it is very unlikely. Most communities don't just allow an outsider to join, and Sarah is only around 22, meaning if she did convert, it must have been relatively recently. If she, as an adult, chose that lifestyle, why would she then create a TikTok to portray it in a bad light so quickly? In hindsight, the last video doesn't really make sense if she is Amish and got caught using banned technology. Why would they force her to upload that video rather than just confiscate her phone and delete her account? It's also worth noting that her second to last video was a paid promotion for a soap company. Surely that'd be way too risky for someone in her position. I feel like her plan was to post that final video, wait a few days for enough attention to be brought to the situation, while she also gained a ton of followers, then she'd return and claim she left the community and could now post freely, while accepting sponsorships left, right and centre. In most situations like this, I would err on the side of caution and give someone the benefit of the doubt in case they were telling the truth. I'd hate to assume they were lying for it to then turn out that they genuinely were in a dangerous situation and at risk of being harmed, but in this case, Kenzie has provided enough proof to more or less convince me that Sarah is safe and lied about being Amish. While I am glad to be fairly certain that Sarah isn't in danger, it is really sad that she seemingly fabricated this whole story. There are countless ex-Amish people who have shocking stories of abuse within the community that are 100% true, and there are inevitably plenty of people living in these communities right now who are in danger. Sarah's lies undermine these stories and take the eye off genuine victims whose voices deserve to be heard. If Sarah is lying, which seems almost undoubtable at this point, I'm definitely not about to defend her. But I will remind you that she is likely suffering with mental illness, so by all means, inform anyone who isn't aware of the truth, but please don't attempt to contact or harass her. She might not be Amish, but we don't actually know what her upbringing was like. There might have been a few truths sprinkled into the overall lie, and I certainly don't want to encourage the harassment of someone who might still have experienced a lot of trauma. I'd be interested to hear your thoughts in the comments, plus any suggestions you might have for a future video. If you enjoyed the video, please consider liking and subscribing. Huge thank you to my Ko-fi members and channel members whose names are on screen now. I really appreciate your support. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time in a new video.